Okay, so you have these, okay, you have a value and you have restrictions. Well, I'm going to teach you how to find zeta, okay? Zeta, tan, zeta is equal to negative 0.35, okay? And you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, you isolate zeta by inversing tanning the 0.35, okay? And make sure it's not negative, okay? Or else that will ruin your Texas T4 calculator. So you have this, and then it spits out a number of 19.29, okay? And that's your reference angle. And since this is negative, now you know what quadrant to put it in because you can use the acronym. All students take cauliflower. So since this is negative, it can't be in here and it can't be in here. So it must be in quadrant 2 or 4. So you put it in quadrant 2 or 4. So you take your reference angle and then you're like 180 minus your reference angle, which is 19.29, and then you get this. You get your very special number, which is 160.71, and you're like, whoa, and then you're just like, oh, quadrant 4, 360 minus 100, no, 19.29, and you're like, whoa, it gives me this awesome number, which is 340.71, 340.71, and you're like, oh, that's amazing, but what do I do with it? Well, you have to plus and minus 360s until you meet the restriction. So you take your angle 160 and you're like start off at quadrant 2 because you gotta go out number numerically. So you're just like, oh, I can't plus anything. You're minus 360, so then you minus 360, and then you get 100 negative 199.29, and you're like, wow, I can't minus anymore. So you move on to quadrant 4. So you got quadrant 4 and you take your angle of 340.71, and then you minus 360 because you can't add it anymore, else that would be like 700 something. So you get a very familiar number, which is negative 19.29, and you're like, what? That's my reference angle, and it comes full circle. So the k value is equal to negative 1, and then boom, there are your two values. There's your k value. Boom, next question. Oh, three triangle values, and then like out of 6, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to determine all of these things. So you get your thing. So you get a angle, which is 8, and then you get this thing which is 10, and then you're like, oh, b angle, what is that? B angle, what? Huh? And then a c angle, what? And then little c, and then you got the angle of a, and then you're like 40, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, and you're like, oh wait, how many triangles can this even? Two, three, four? I don't even know. So you're just like, oh, okay. So these two determined. So they're set and they're set, and this angle can't go anywhere. It can't go over here. So I can't make a triangle over here, which is a square apparently. So it only could go this way. So you're gonna make one triangle. So now what do? You summon the demons inside your soul and use sin law. Okay. So use sin a over little a equals to sin b, okay? Sin b over little b. So now you take this and you sin your 40, okay? And then you sit over 8, and then you sin b, okay? Which is, you don't know what b angle is, okay? Don't be crazy now. So you take the small b, okay? And then you reorganize this by timesing this by 10 and sin inversing this entire thing, and you're like, what are you even talking about? What, you want me to write it out for you? Fine, I'll write it out for you. Boom. Sin 40 divided by 8, okay, times 10, okay, boom. There, that equals your B. And you're like, oh, that makes more sense. And then you punch it into your T4 Texas instrumental calculator, and that spits out a number of 53. Oh, make sure it's in degree mode, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Gives you 53.646. And you're like, oh, I have B angle and A angle, so now I can add them together. So 40 plus 53, okay, 0.46, okay, and then 80. 180, which is a full triangle, minus these two numbers, gives you your C angle because, yeah, it does. So C angle, you're like, what's that? This is the 86.54, and you're like, wow, I have my C angle, so now I can sin it as well and use my necromancy abilities. So you take your angle of sin 40, okay, so you always want and sin A, okay, but I don't want to rewrite it, okay, so that takes a lot of time for my speed run. So you take C, and you're like, oh, I have 86.4, 0.54, and then you're like over little c, and you're like, I want to find the little c, so then you organize it over here by dividing this by this, and then you're just like, what are you talking about? Here, I'll write it out for you. Okay, sin 86.554 divided by sin 40 divided by 8, and you're like, oh, Chris, that's disgusting. Why would you ever do that here? Boom, brackets. That makes it better, doesn't it? Yeah, it makes it. You're like, oh yeah, that's understandable. See, it's still disgusting, but at least it's understandably disgusting. So now you punch it into your T4 instrumental calculator, and then you get little c. So now you come up here and you're like, oh yeah, I can fill out this triangle now. So your little c is 12.47, which is right here, by the way, if you guys didn't know. My handwriting is very terrible. And then you're just like, what's my angle over here? And then you're like, oh my gosh, my angle over here is 53.46, and you're like, oh, over here is 86.54, and that's my speed run. Now you have a happy triangle, very happy. The end.